Well, employers cut more jobs than forecast in the month of October. So how do we get companies to start hiring again? Stephen Davis is a professor at University of Chicago School of Business, and he's got a few ideas on the topic. He's also a research associate with the National Bureau of Economic Research, and he's with us now live from Chicago. Today, Professor, the president will be extending unemployment benefits. Why is that not a good thing?
Well, the thing you recognize about unemployment benefits is it doesn't encourage people to go back to work. It's a disincentive to seek work quickly. So we need to, if we're going to expand the generosity of unemployment insurance benefits, we need to couple it with other programs that actually create jobs and encourage people to take jobs.
But what you're describing sounds like a psychological issue, a psychological impediment. That's assuming that there are jobs for these people to find in the first place.
Well, there is a psychological element to it, but psychology is affected by economic incentives. And so if somebody's on the margin between, say, do I want to move my family to another city where jobs might be more plentiful, or do I want to stay here, the generosity of unemployment insurance benefits affect that decision.
But we saw just this week alone in figures that haven't yet been added into that unemployment rate we got today that corporations are continuing to cut. Johnson & Johnson cutting another 7% of their workforce. Just overnight, we heard British Airways cutting another 3,000 jobs. It would seem that companies are still firing, not necessarily hiring right now. So how do you get that portion of the equation adding?
Well, two things. First, I think if you look at the data, it's very clear that many companies are hiring and many companies are firing at the same time. That comes through very clearly, not in the payroll numbers, but in another data set that the Bureau of Labor Statistics routinely reports. It's called Business Employment Dynamics. So there are many companies hiring. It's just that on net, there are more companies letting workers go than hiring. But I do agree with your larger point that the government should be taking other steps to encourage job creation and to make it easier for workers to find jobs.
Well, how do you get corporations doing it? Is it a tax incentive for a corporation to hire? Is it changing health benefits? I mean, how do you get a corporation to spend in this environment?
Well, I think you lower their labor costs and you reduce their uncertainty about the future. Those are the two most important things. And there are a number of steps the government can take to do each of those. So I think in terms of young workers, inexperienced workers, lowering the minimum wage would be a plus. That would help some young people gain a toehold in the labor market. I think the government can do several things to reduce the cost of health insurance benefits. That makes it less expensive to hire workers for those employers who offer health insurance benefits to their workers. There's also a number of things that the government has done to increase the amount of uncertainty in the economic environment. Businesses and households see the enormous deficits that the government is running now. They say to themselves, look, taxes are probably going up. We're not sure exactly how they're going up, but they're probably going up. That's a source of uncertainty. The health care reform, which has dominated the policy agenda recently, is an enormous source of uncertainty. Cap and trade is another source of uncertainty. So there are many aspects of policy that are adding to the uncertainty in the economic environment and discouraging businesses from making job-creating investments.
But what's actually politically viable? It would seem very hard to sell the idea of dropping the minimum wage, dropping wages at a time when you're looking at 10.2% unemployment. People need those paychecks.
Yeah, I think it is politically difficult. So a suggestion that I've made is that if we're not going to lower the federal minimum wage, at least allow states to opt out of the federal minimum wage. Instead of having a one-size-fits-all policy that imposes the same minimum wage in New York City as in Bismarck, let's recognize that the cost of living differs across states and localities, and let's let states choose.
Well, some would argue there should be cost of living consideration in taxes, period, for individuals. Thank you so much for that insight, for your perspective on today's figures.